Okay, I can get started. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Carey from Bethune-Cookman University. I am the Math and Physics Department Assessment Coordinator. And my colleague that all my work you're going to see here today is under a grant by where the PI is Rafael Isopehi in our biology department. And I work closely with him in his grants. And this is data that we are looking at, and we're kind of studying learning analytics and in our practical statistics course. It's an introductory course, and it's just my sections of that course. And we are choosing to use Open Learning Initiative by Carnegie Mellon. And so let's take a look at what we've been doing and the resources that we have used for spring 2016-2018. It's a traditional course, face-to-face course, introductory level stats, freshmen, sophomores mostly taking, and we use the Carnegie Mellon OLE Statistical Reasoning online textbook platform. It's an interactive textbook. In the fall of 2018 through the spring of 2020, we went fully online with my courses, and I decided to switch up which online platform I was using from Carnegie Mellon. OLE Concepts of Statistics is for students with maybe a weaker algebra background and maybe even limited literacy skills. It still has the rigor of a college level course, but as you can see in the last sentence there, the expository text is written in active voice with shorter sentences. So it still uses the vocabulary, but keeps the sentences short, makes it a little bit easier to understand. And I thought that might be better for a fully online course. So those are the textbooks. I'm saying I'm doing a little quote thing because they're online platforms that are interactive. Okay. I also use Excel and data analytics and Tableau, and also working with students in these two softwares to teach them data organization and things like that. These are some of the different things they will do in Excel. Mostly the students have been using Excel. I'm just now, you'll see later in the study, that I'm just now incorporating Tableau.
Over your head.
Pen down. So why did I pick OLE? I really liked what I saw by Carnegie Mellon because they not only use domain experts to build their courses, but they are collaborating with human-computer interaction experts, software engineers, teacher science researchers. And this collaboration, they collect the data, they monitor every transaction that students make to see what's working with the students, where they tend to click, and making it more user-friendly, making the course content more robust. And I just like that, the science behind the way they're building the courses. So what can I tell when I'm using OLE, and how have we used that? We have it has real-time analysis capabilities, so I can monitor my students how they're doing day by day, week by week. So this is just a screen that kind of shows you for this, where I'm highlighting here. Let me get my little laser pen thing. Right here, estimated student learning. This is just telling me there's a lot of dots that are green. That's telling me quite a few of my students have mastered the content. Each dot usually represents one student. On some screens, it's two students. But down here in the gray, these are the students that haven't even started yet. So I can say, oh, only one student, that's good. I can click on that and tell which students are mastering, which students, aren't getting it so well, which students haven't started. And you can even email them from there. So that's kind of nice. Down here, you can click on anything on this page is hot. You can click on it and get more information. So down here, if I clicked on a bar, actually clicking on this bar, this is what opens up. And so I could get more information about the next learning objective. I click on here, I can see what the students are actually saying to the answers to the questions. I can see if they're using the right vocabulary and things like that. So just so much I can tell about how they're doing with the learning objectives of the course in real time. Also, at the end of each module, there is some self-evaluation that goes on. So I can also see this. So for example, from the research question, determine the goal of a statistical study. This is one of the objectives. And this is answering, the students are telling whether they feel like they can do that on their own, number 5, number 4 with minimal support, and so forth. Number 1 is they can't do that at all. So they're evaluating, so it's kind of some metacognitive evaluation on whether they're getting it and if they need to seek help. So this helps me know where the students think they are and if they feel confident with the material. So sometimes we don't know where our students are. Also, I can tell in real time their help-seeking behavior. So also at the end of each module, they have to tell me how they feel about the material, but then they also have to say what concepts were the least clear, like their muddiest points is a common thing that educators do. And so here the students are typing in what they feel like they're struggling with, and I can address those maybe with new activities or a synchronous meeting, talking about these topics, or a synchronous activity, things like that I can bring in if I need to, if I see students are struggling. So, and then also real time, I can evaluate their participation, and I'm finding that to be the most valuable thing for me right now. Here's an example of a student. This is a particular student. I took out their name, just wrote individual student. But on this particular module, you'll notice in the blue dot in front of everything, that says those are activities that they're not worked on. So that means the student didn't work on any of the activities in the book that go along. So there's these things called learn by doing and did I get this? After they've read a couple paragraphs or looked at an interactive graph, then there's usually questions and interactive things. And this student didn't do any of those. But yet you see the gray is that something they worked on. This was their checkpoint and types of statistical studies. And I click on that, I find they didn't do very well on the checkpoint. Well, I know why. They didn't read the material. They did not do the questions that they should have done to practice to be ready. So I can quickly email that student and give them some input and say, hey, you're going to do better. This, this participation is really important. And then I let them know I'm grading that participation, which I already told them in the beginning of the course, but they need that reinforcement. So there's just so much I can tell in the real time. This is a screen that just shows when I clicked on one of those objectives, what the students are answering in response to some of the questions that assess that objective. So I can kind of look in that and helps me see if they got it. I can also see who's playing the system, because if their answer's too good, they've copy and pasted the answer. So I kind of email people that are playing the system. And so there's just so much you can tell in this online environment through the way Oli has this set up. So that's a lot of the real time I can do as I'm teaching the course. But on the back end, the data that we're setting is very interesting. So for example, I can see students, the students are anonymous. I don't know who this student is, this big old long student number, but I can see that they took the course in 2 different semesters. These numbers right here are the number of transactions that they did in the book. The first time when they failed the course, they only did 265 transactions. Second time they took the course, fall 17, and they picked that up and did quite a few more and passed the class. So there's just things like that. I can also tell on the back end of repeating students, I can look at how they're answering questions the second time around and things like that. Okay. So here is big aggregate data from spring 16 to spring 18. This is all the data for that first using statistical reasoning. This is all face-to-face. The totals, they don't necessarily tell you a whole lot. Total of number of transactions in the textbook, in the online environment. This is how many students, my N. Total hours they spent answering assessments in the book and learning from the book. Knowledge components are kind of like objectives that are in the book. I was really interested in the hints. What is their hint-seeking behavior? I'm trying to encourage students to use the hints. If they don't know anything, don't just put a silly answer and use a hint and try to answer, do an educated answer. And then how many incorrect outcomes. So a lot of information there, but we have to break it down even more. This is the same data for the next 2 years when we went fully online using concepts of statistics. You can see my total number of transactions stayed up at about the same level, but I have half as many students because I went from having 2 sections a semester to 1. So we got the transactions up. So I felt if the students were interacting with the online platform, they were going to learn, and I had to push participation. So I'm always looking for this number to go up in the total number of transactions. But what did we see and what did we do for phase 1? After the first baseline year, so you can see at the bottom data, the baseline spring 16 and spring 17, I broke that down into average transactions per student, 551.6 transactions per student in the whole textbook, which is not a lot really. Average student hours, 2.2. That's a whole semester. That's not enough. Even if I'm in the face-to-face teaching, I need them interacting with that online platform. And then the hints per student were 4.2 for a whole semester. And so I was very not pleased with that data. So the first, after that, before fall of 17, we did some interventions. So one of the things I really did was put more specific in my teaching, put more specific directions on my expectations for participation in the online environment. I did classroom demonstrations many times throughout the semester using the online platform. I put links to the OLLI textbook. It was not able to integrate at the time, so I put a lot of links in every assignment so that it was easy for them to find what they needed to do. And then I gave them much earlier feedback in participation grades. So at the 4-week mark, I uploaded participation grades, and a lot of them were like, realized why my participation so low, and they realized how that grade was playing in. And I was doing that all along, but I don't think I was conveying it to the students. I was not uploading participation until midterm and final. I wasn't doing it all along. So I have learned that the sooner I put in a participation grade, the better the students do, because they realize they understand better. So you can see at the bottom of the screen that my transactions per student after these interventions went up a little bit, but not significantly, not enough to get me excited. Okay. But one thing I did notice, this is a chart with looking at participation. So if you look at the blue bars here, fall 16 and 17, I had about 50% participation in module 4. And then after the second year, after the interventions, you can see that participation did go up, and you can look in the last 2 bars, and all of these are up most of the time a little higher. So I did get some better participation, but not to the level that would make me happy. So I needed to try to find more things to get them going. Well, then my course went fully online, not necessarily of my choice, but it ended up working out well. So I switched to the concepts of statistics course because I did not feel like the students could read and understand the book without me teaching and just facilitating. So I use this course that was easier to read and more conceptual than the other course. And I made a welcome video that was required to listen to in a synchronous meeting, and I pushed and pushed and pushed participation during those different things. And the results, you'll see that there was a marked increase, and I need to move that. I couldn't see my results because of things in the bottom of my screen, but I can see them now. So the phase 2 results were very significant. 1,736 transactions per student. This is much, much better. 7.8 hours in the textbook. Now, keep in mind, that does not count the hours they might be reading, but this is the hours interacting, clicking on things, trying questions, watching videos, things like that. And then average hints per student went up. Still, I don't think 13.3 for a whole semester is enough, but it's better. But I was very happy with the interactions per student. Okay. So That now we come to the second year, which was last year, our COVID year. And something wasn't working. Okay. So we improved the welcome video. I remade it. I wasn't real happy with that. And I tested it with some senior students to see if they could understand it. And if they seemed it was self-explanatory. And then I added a welcome video quiz to my course to make sure, because that welcome video really hits home and the quiz hits home on participation. And then you'll see I did have another increase up to 1868. And then a big increase in hints per student. I also pushed that in the welcome video. So I started to see the results I wanted to get the students to participate and engage, that they would learn. Okay. And here's my participation chart. Now, again, this new course has many more modules because the course is broken down into smaller pieces. Okay, but look at that participation. It's almost 100% across the board. Now, that's not including the students that dropped the course, right? But it's including everyone that completed the course, whether they failed or passed. So they really started out really well, and it's usually at the midterm time and the final time here at the end where their participation goes down a little bit. But overall, I saw good results with the online course. So a lot of people ask, well, how did the pass rates look once you went online? And so I saw good increase in pass rates and good increase in their interaction engagement. So I felt like the online course was a good thing. I really think it has a lot to do with that online textbook is much easier for students to understand and follow without as much direction by the teacher. Some of the reasons I might have had such good success with was the concepts were easy to understand. I tried to improve methods in Canvas to make it more user-friendly, and add supplements for their learning. And then I just improved my feedback. My feedback became sooner and not later. And I think that helped a lot. Okay, some interesting findings too was that the first few years, the survey at the beginning of the course, which is built into OLI, included questions about math anxiety. And you see these two charts. First one is talking about, it was two questions they were asked about anxiety. How anxious do they feel about math, taking a math course or statistics course? And two similar questions, but you can see there's only 30% of the students not anxious at all. So that means 70% have some level of anxiety. And then the second question over here, thinking about your life, are there any significant barriers that may make it difficult for you to earn a grade that you want? And here again, almost 30% had no barriers. So that means 70% of the course felt like they had some level of barriers, most of them moderate and some just slight. That could be jobs, it could be home problems, it could be anything. But if 70% of your class has some barriers they feel like they're going to hinder them, and they're anxious, 70%, that's a disaster waiting to happen. So I thought that was very interesting, and that is something that we're beginning to study now, that would this OLI platform help alleviate the math and statistics anxiety? Because I've had good results, but yet they're coming in with this anxiety. What strategies could be incorporated in curriculum to encourage help-seeking behavior? So these are our questions that we're trying to think about now. And what other metacognitive behaviors might help alleviate this anxiety? So keeping that in mind, our phase 4 interventions, and I shouldn't say coming because we're doing them right now. That was from the summer presentation. I gave them a math anxiety survey at the onset of the course with some similar questions that you just saw. And then I had them meet with me to review that survey and to discuss the math anxiety, to see what I could do to help eliminate or reduce their anxiety about taking my course. And we did that via Zoom or in office, whatever they were comfortable with because of the COVID, what's going on with COVID. And so I had some come to me, some do it through Zoom, but everyone was required to meet with me. We also discussed learning strategies and how I went over demonstrating how to use the online platform. And now I've also included an end of course survey, which my students will be taking soon because we are ending our courses next week before Thanksgiving. And so the end of course survey is focusing more on OLE and, I'm sorry, and I'm also including a Tableau activity to start introducing my students to Tableau, so to see if that helps their understanding of the statistics better. And I see there's a question. I'm just gonna, before I go into anything. Oh, 5 in the morning. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So let me quickly wrap it up, and then, so my survey at the end of the course that my students will be asking are just trying to get a feel for if there's a part of OLE that's helping them learn, part of OLE that's making them, give them anxiety. What part of the course did you find most helpful in understanding concepts of statistics, different things like that. You can look at those. I can make that available to you. But I put that into Canvas, and they will answer that at the end of the course for me to look over and see how I can improve my course. Okay. And that's it. So are there any questions?
Thanks very much, Kelly. I'll stop the recording right here and we can, continue with discussion, of course. But let's do